All right, guys, there may be only about 3 or 4 more weeks that you can properly buy a short-term rental and take advantage of the short-term rental tax loophole. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact timeline that is realistic. There are going to be alternative ways to do it faster, which I will explain. But if you are somebody who wants to take advantage of the short-term rental tax loophole, start moving, start researching, start looking at properties. All right. Now, for those of you who do not know what the short-term rental tax loophole is, I'm going to take a quick minute and try my absolute best to explain it, but I am by no means an accountant. Okay. So when you buy a short-term rental, it falls under a certain tax code that allows you to be able to write off active income rather than passive income. So as long as you meet certain requirements, which is usually 100 hours or more than anyone else, and a couple of other requirements as well, you are able to depreciate the property using a cost segregation to do a bonus depreciation and then use those tax savings on your active income rather than passive income. Don't take my word for everything that I just said. It's fairly close. There's a ton of other little things. You can go to my website down below. I've got a full free course on it, a whole white paper on it. You can search up webinars on YouTube that I've put together, a short-term rental tax loophole. That's not the point of this conversation. The point of this conversation is because you've decided that you want to take advantage of the short-term rental tax loophole and you want to hear from me what this whole timeline is and why you should be concerned about the fact that you should be finding a property ASAP. Okay. So with that being said, let me give a little bit more credibility here. So I've helped identify 220 properties. Last year we did about 60 plus properties of retail investors, so regular people, not institution, that are actually trying to take advantage of the short-term rental tax loophole. And there was something that happened when we got to sort of Q4 of last year that we didn't really realize was going to happen. But now that we lived through it, I want to give you this advice before we hit Q4 of 2025. What happened was we had a ridiculous amount of people who reached out to us and were trying to hire us to find them a property so that they could take advantage of the short-term rental tax loophole. And they were hiring us in like October and November, or at least they were asking to hire us. And we were turning people away left, right, and center because there's not enough time left in the year for us to be able to find them a property and for them to materially participate and get it up and running and all the different things that were needed for it to become a short-term rental. And so I want to make a sort of like a PSA video before it actually becomes Q4 of 2025 so that if you're watching this, I can put a little fire under your bum and then you can get going. Okay. So with that being said, let me walk you through the timeline of the average client that we're working with right now. On average, our clients are getting under contract in 32 days. From their onboarding call to going under contract, it's about 32 days. That's fairly quick in this world of acquiring properties. But we have a system and that's why we're able to do it that quickly. Hopefully you can do it that quickly as well. I'll kind of give tips and tricks and things like that to talk about if you're doing it yourself, okay? But on average, it's about 32 days. Now, right now, today, it's June 10th for me. This video might be coming out a little bit few days later, but June 10th today. 30 days from now is going to be July 12th, right? So now we're 32 days later. And if the average close is about 30 days, which is usually about 30 to 45 days from under contract to close when you get the keys, you may be looking at August 12th or even later into August. But let's just say it's 30 days for this scenario. So now we're in August 12th, okay? What we're also seeing with our clients is that these people are really, making beautiful properties. They're really well designed. They've got a lot of amenities. In other words, the stuff that actually makes a property profitable nowadays in the short-term rental space, that's what they're doing. And so to be able to do all of that is not super easy and it's not super quick either. And so then therefore, to get that property from the time they get the keys to the time it's on Airbnb can be anywhere from 2 months to 4 months. So think about that. You get the property sort of mid-August, and then your earliest or best case scenario is that you're getting it live on Airbnb mid-October or mid-December, right? Now, keep in mind, if you want to take advantage of the short-term rental tax loophole, you have to materially participate, which means you have to get at least 100 hours of operating that property and more than anyone else. And you've also have to actually host a handful of people during that time period so that the IRS looks back at that and they're like, yeah, they actually did operate an Airbnb. And so if you think about that, as of today, if you were to fall into the typical process that our clients are falling into, some of them could end up where early December or mid-December, they're launching their property. That to me, that's crazy because it's going to be really, really difficult it's not impossible by any means, but it's cutting it really, really close to be able to actually qualify for the short-term rental tax loophole. And so what I'm trying to stress by making this video is just for you to be thinking about this for yourself and thinking, okay, if I actually want to do this, I should probably be doing this right now, right? And maybe you've already been looking yourself, but maybe this is like, okay, now you're watching this video and you're thinking to yourself, I got to make a decision faster, or I got to, find a property faster, or whatever that may be. So that's the typical timeline that some people are going to run into. Now, you could, in 30 days from now, even in 60 days from now, right? Let's go mid-August, you still could find a property and get it up and running before the end of the year. It is still possible to do. You're just cutting it really, really close. And that's, for me, I'm not about that. And so I don't know about you, but if you feel the same as me, it's getting a little close. So here's what I want to try and say with this video, provide a little bit of additional context, additional advice, things like that, right? Let's say that you are still struggling to find a property yourself and you want to do it all yourself, which I love that, right? There is a free training on my website that teaches you my entire process. After I found 120 properties, I laid out exactly how I did that through the way I analyzed Airbnb data to find the markets and the properties and how to set them up. And it's free right on the website, which means if you stop this video and you go and watch that course, it's about 7 hours long and you can have that done in a day to a week, okay? And now you have that knowledge in your head of how to actually find these properties and these, most importantly, market, right? And then from there, what you need to start doing is looking into all of the different markets that you could potentially open up an Airbnb. So you're gonna start with the ones that you know and you like, and then from there, you're gonna kind of keep going from there. And you're trying to find a market that you could actually find a property that meets your investment criteria that you would be happy with, whatever your standards are. Because I've realized that everybody has different standards. Some people need like 40% cash on cash. Other people need crazy tax savings. And so pretty much figure out your scenario and then go from there. But the reality of this is that, let's say it takes you about a week to go through the training. And now you're in the process of starting to hunt and look for markets so you can open up your Airbnb. And again, you want to make sure let's say you want to make sure it's a good cash flowing Airbnb. You might realize the first couple of markets that you open up or that you deep dive and study the data on are not going to be that great. And then you're going to keep doing this over and over again until you finally find a market that you're happy with, right? Once you find the market that you're happy with, you then have to, find the properties within that market, but you also have to find the realtor that you can actually work with there that's going to know what they're doing. You also need to obviously find a lender, which most people typically have, but you will have to go and find that person. You'll want to find like the cleaning quotes for that area. You want to find the general contractor that you can work for that area. You want to find a designer that you can work for that area as well. And then, you may have to like actually go there and get those things set up. And you might have to, when you get the property, you're going to do the inspection period, hopefully. And then after the inspection period, there may be some things that need to be fixed. And hopefully you only have to go through one general contractor and not four, like some people have to in some of these properties. And then somebody's got to, order all of the furniture for the entire home and get it all set up and through that entire time period. And pretty much what I'm trying to stress right now is there's a lot of things you have to do, right? From the point of starting to analyze to actually getting it live on Airbnb, there are a lot of things. And I'm trying to stress the fact that, yeah, there's a lot. There is a ton of things you got to do. And so if you're thinking to yourself, hey, I think I might do this, or I'm pretty sure I want to do this, but I haven't like actually made the decision that I'm going to get an Airbnb this year, you might want to make that decision like this week so that you can then get started on the process. And the reason I'm making this video and stressing it is for two reasons. One, because I went through it last year and talked to a ridiculous amount of people that I couldn't help. And those people didn't get an Airbnb, and then they weren't able to take advantage of the short-term rental tax loophole, which means they paid Uncle Sam upwards of tens of thousands of dollars that they could have avoided if they just had started today. And then on top of that, I also talked to somebody this week who said that he was considering it and he was thinking he would start in September to be able to get the process going of finding a property and turning it into an Airbnb. And honestly, I think it's a mistake. If I'm being very, very blunt, I think wait until September is a gigantic mistake, because you're going to kind of run into this issue where your options are going to be extremely limited. You're going to have to take whatever's available at that time period, and you're going to have to get it up and running. All right. So I'm making a video to stress the fact that, guys, get going. But one other thing I want to point out here, because I can hear the creative deal people in my ear right now kind of saying like, no, I'm not creative. You can get a lot quicker. Creative deals, right? Where you take over somebody else's mortgage, and you can find a whole bunch of these nowadays because there's a bunch of people looking for them. You can close significantly quicker in comparison to everything that I just explained, right? You don't even need a 30-day close. The property could come furnished. It could already be an existing Airbnb. You could literally buy it and have the Airbnb listing like super, super quick and be able to get your 100 hours. This is what I want to stress when it comes to creative deals and trying to use creative deals to take advantage of a short-term rental tax loophole. If you are taking over somebody's short-term rental through a creative deal, most of the time that's a failing Airbnb, and it's also a property that they're struggling to sell, so therefore they're going the creative route. So keeping that in mind, it's kind of like you're taking on a failing business just to be able to save some taxes, and now you have to deal with this failing business for the next 2 to 3 years or however long it's going to take you before you move away from that property. Now I know that's not the case for every single last one. I know that's not the case. What I'm saying though is, unless you are a really good operator and you look at this Airbnb and you can see that it has a lot of potential to do better, and you know that you can take it over and just managing it better photos, maybe some more color to it, and maybe throwing a hot tub in there, and you know you could make it a lot better, then like, yeah, go for it. That's going to make a lot of sense to be able to take over a creative deal, take advantage of a short-term rental tax loophole, and not have a property that's going to be a burden over the next couple of years. But I just want you to be cautious of these properties that you could be getting as creative deals, because from my own research, majority of them are not great, and that's why they're being sold creatively and not the other way, but not 100%. So with all that being said, all I'm trying to say within this video, guys, is make the decision to move forward ASAP. If you're going to do that, start with the research and learning how to do that as fast as you possibly can. If you need help with it, you have the option to be able to hire us if you'd like to, link down below. But other than that, get moving, get going, and take advantage of the short-term rental tax loophole. All right, guys, see you later.